reason why these businesses have been underserved in the past, historically they had Excel, but then they grow out of it. It can't manage the complexity, and they're trapped between these two worlds. Having that single view of what they have and where they have it is really now vital to their business and allows them to actually get some differentiation, because they can make sure that they always have the right stock bought from the right place at the right time.
Today we're discussing the invisible hurdle that really stops growing product businesses in their tracks, which is inventory complexity.
Don't let perfect get in the way of good. Just begin. And the first step really is get a single view of what inventory you have. And that's usually where most businesses that are struggling is because they don't actually know.
Hi everyone, this is Maheen and welcome to the CanadianSME Small Business Podcast. Today we're discussing the invisible hurdle that really stops growing product businesses in their tracks, which is inventory complexity. Now in 2026, selling across Shopify, Amazon, and wholesale simultaneously isn't just a sales strategy, it's an operational puzzle that spreadsheets can no longer solve. To discuss this, joining us is Ben Hussey, the co-CEO of Katana. Based in Toronto, Ben is a veteran of e-commerce and SaaS world with a career spanning leadership roles at Elastic Path and SAP. Today, he leads a platform that manages over $3 billion in annual sales, helping mid-market merchants move beyond manual tracking into real-time, AI-driven visibility. So there's lots to discuss, and without further ado, let's welcome our guest, Ben. Ben, it's a pleasure to have you with us, this time in person. How are you doing?
Thank you for the kind intro, and I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to have spring finally here in the city.
Now, Ben, last time we discussed, again, some critical issues in the space, and this time we'd love to kind of open a discussion by understanding the multi-channel challenge. Most small businesses, they really start with a single channel, but once they hit like Shopify or Amazon and wholesale at the same time, the wheels often start to come off. Please tell us what defines a modern multi-channel merchant and why are they underserved?
I think that maybe the first thing to realize is lots of small businesses don't actually necessarily start out this way. As you said, they will often start with, a product vision, something they want to sell, and they'll have Shopify as their web front. And perhaps the inventory is in the garage or, small warehouse, and they're using a spreadsheet to manage it. But what happens is it's a good story. They get successful. And they realize that they can now make more money by selling on Amazon. They could perhaps sell into stores. So if you take one of our customers is called goodprotein.ca. Great example. They make their own protein powders and they sell on their own website in Amazon. They also now start to sell in other stores. And the complexity there is that you need to know exactly what inventory you have for each channel available to sell at any moment so that you don't have too much or too little. What adds to the complexity is oftentimes you'll make or source the products in different ways. And so the inventory available to sell may be in different places. It's not like you can just walk into the warehouse and count it all, because you may have some in your warehouse. You might have some in the Amazon warehouse if you're fulfilled by Amazon. It could be a drop shipper, third-party logistics. So as well as many channels, which kind of defines this modern merchant, they often have different sourcing strategies and locations as well. So there's quite a lot of complexity there. And the reason why these businesses have been underserved in the past is that historically they had Excel, as you said, but then they grow out of it. It can't manage the complexity, and they had nowhere to go because something like SAP, NetSuite, Oracle, these big platforms, very expensive, take a long time, very complicated, hard to learn. So they're kind of trapped between these two worlds. And I think the exciting thing for companies like ourselves, we've kind of come in to fill this space, give that capability to these small and medium-sized businesses.
And it also helps us realize that manual spreadsheets, they actually become a liability, as we scale, and as we scale as a first step towards reclaiming our operational sanity. Let's explore scaling operations without really overcomplicating systems. Ben, how can businesses really scale inventory without overcomplicating systems?
Yeah, I guess maybe the first, it actually came up with one of my salespeople today. We were talking about this because a customer asked this very question. I have Excel today and I want to take that step, but how do I do it? Because it feels challenging. And that's the fear of change. So what we often kind of try to encourage people to think of is you can take small steps and you don't have to do everything at once. And, if you're working with a good vendor like us, then, it can be done in less than 30 days. We'll help you do it. But more importantly, that the problems are kind of like, they're not like fine wine. They don't get easier over time.
Right.
So actually just taking those first steps and getting started, because the cost of not doing it will just compound, right? We talked to one person who, figured they lose about $2,000 a month in inventory mistakes because they use Excel.
Right.
That just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, right? And there's also the time taken to use Excel. Like, just keeps adding and adding. And if you think about what you could do with that time or that money to invest in your business, drive more revenue or more margin, that's just losses that continue to add up unless you take the action. So yes, it can seem daunting, but you can take small steps to get started and make the progress and drive the improvements you're looking for.
Extremely insightful, really. And it tells us, how do we actually scale without overcomplicating this entire process? And you're right. I mean, finding a cloud-based middle ground, it allows merchants to stay in stock and it fulfill faster without the overhead of enterprise-level software. Next up, let's look at managing real-time data in a fast-moving global market. But why is real-time inventory visibility very essential today?
We used to tell people that real time was important, and then when tariffs hit, everyone realized why it was so important. So if you think about a retailer, maybe they're sourcing their products from different countries. You think of the uncertainty of tariffs, where the rules were changing every day or every week. So if you don't have real time, up-to-date information on your suppliers, your costs, where your inventory is, how much you have of it, then for you to run a successful business where you get the right product to the right customer at the right time and still make money is going to be very difficult, particularly in these complicated multi-channel type scenarios or multi-sourcing scenarios. And so for us, it's actually something we hear from our customers, that having that single view of what they have and where they have it is really now vital to their business and allows them to actually get some differentiation and competitive advantage, because they can make sure that they always have the right stock bought from the right place at the right time. And that's, for any product-based business, that's your real goal. And we've seen it again in the last few weeks. If you think of the supply chain challenges with the Middle East situation, again, that's thrown a lot of businesses off, in terms of what inventory they have and where they have it. And so, for us, we just see it's kind of the new norm of having that real-time visibility on what you have and the costing and all the data behind it.
Absolutely. Having data that you can act on in seconds, rather than days is the only way to really protect our margins during a supply chain shock, as you rightfully said about the Middle Eastern, issues going on. And to all the merchants that are watching, in 2026, you cannot manage what you cannot see. So if you're still running your warehouse on hope and manual stock takes, then you might be sitting on tens and thousands of dollars in hidden inventory, just like the client who found $40,000 during a Katana audit. Ben and his team just made G2's 2026 best offer list for a reason. They help you stop guessing and start knowing. With Katana's new AI native replenishment prototype, you can finally move from reactive buying to proactive scaling. So don't let a lack of visibility be the reason you miss your next growth milestone. We're going to take a quick break here. Don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we'll dive into how AI is changing the way merchants make smarter buying decisions.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. You still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep, healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah, well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep, that's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's jump right in and explore how AI is helping businesses move from guesswork to precision in inventory planning. Now let's explore how AI is improving smarter buying decisions, Ben. Tell us, how does AI improve inventory and replenishment decisions?
So AI is often a scary topic for people, right? There's lots of hype, there's lots of drama in the news. And what I always encourage people to think about is AI is a technical solution for a problem.
Right.
Just like the web was and the internet was, right? These are all things that help to improve business operations. And so you can think of the AI technology in a couple of different ways. One is automation of repetitive tasks. The other is things like demand fulfillment. So things that require a lot of brain power, a lot of data, and a lot of kind of crunching through, AI can do in seconds. So for example, we're currently trialing some capability where our AI agent will automatically tell you, based on forecast data that you input or it gets from itself from different channels, different integrations, what product you need, where you need to buy it from, what you need to make available to which channel at what time. So that automated AI forecasting demand planning, which can then turn that into the orders you need at the time you need it from your suppliers. Now that is something that would normally take an operations manager days or weeks to put together,
Right.
using Excel or whatever it is. We can now do that in seconds. And so that can give you a real advantage in terms of your operational efficiency, effectiveness. And, we see this as a really big advantage for businesses, as they really can do much more with less.
Wow, that was extremely helpful, really, Ben. And you're right. I mean, it helps us understand that turning vast amounts of raw inventory data into automated buy recommendations, and moves the merchant from a manual operator really to a strategic owner.
But just to add to that, I mean, if you
Please.
imagine that you're a business that has 300 or 1,000 or a few thousand SKUs, being up to date on exactly which ones you need and when, that's going to be a challenging thing to do as a human. You need technology to help you.
Right.
Just to be able to do it, not even just to be able to do it well, but just to manage that operation. If you can then add to that the efficiency and effectiveness, so things like our AI engine can tell you that you've had certain stock sitting on the shelf for too long, or that you've got some trends that you should watch. That might mean you need to buy more. Maybe your safety stock levels are wrong, your margins are wrong. We can tell you all of that with the data that we have in our platform and expose it to you so you can make the right decisions. And I think that's going to be really powerful for people.
And it comes down to just one thing. You need to find the right tools and the right solutions to help you be as efficient as possible, especially during this day and age. Now, finally, Ben, let's look at this future of supply chain technology and innovation. The times are scary, as you mentioned. What is the future of supply chain management for merchants?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it actually correlates with what you just said about businesses making sure they've got the right tool at the right time. So, if you're just starting out and you're doing a few $100,000 of revenue or tens of thousands of dollars of revenue, what you need then and what you need when you're 5, 10, 50, $500 million of revenue can be different. What has happened over the last 5 years, I think, is that the technology gap has now decreased. So you go back a few years and you think of someone like Walmart. Obviously, massive company, massive budgets, well known for their operational superiority, their efficiency of what they can do, driven by technology. That technology is now available to a small business. And because smaller businesses are more nimble, they can react quicker. I actually think it gives small businesses an advantage now that they have the capabilities of the larger enterprise, but can move faster. I think that's how they're going to be able to compete, because we see lots of these individual products, and I mentioned one earlier, where companies are making their own product or perhaps co-manufacturing it, and they're bringing it to market through website, through Amazon, through stores, through distribution. And that's just something that wasn't really possible a few years ago. And that's because technology is allowing these businesses to grow with a much smaller operation and get big in revenue. So right tool at the right time. And I think for me in the changing supply chain world, that becomes even more true. And I really think does help close the gap for small businesses and allow them to do things that they just couldn't in the past.
There is absolutely no doubt that streamlining native integrations, that it would ensure that merchants can stay focused on their brands, and while the technology handles the heavy lifting of inventory. So thank you for highlighting that. As we wrap up, Ben, and this was a great conversation, by the way, thank you for sharing what Katana can actually do for our listeners. As you wrap up, what advice would you give to businesses that are really struggling with inventory issues?
Yeah. Don't let perfect get in the way of good. So just begin. And the first step really is get a single view of what inventory you have. And that's usually where most businesses that are struggling is because they don't actually know. We've got customers we talked to, one recently, they got Katana set up and they said, we found $40,000 worth of inventory we didn't know we had. So, you've been waiting and waiting to make the decision to change, and that's just adding up.
Right.
So get started, use vendors, right? Vendors like ourselves and others are out there who, talking to us doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
So, have those conversations, listen to podcasts like this one, educate yourself, but also try things. Get into the research, say, talk to vendors, answer those questions, and then just start to understand how you can move forward and take those small steps. And over time, they'll add up. You don't need to do everything at once, but the first step is usually, knowledge. Knowledge is power, right? If you know what you have, then you can start to make good decisions.
Great advice. I love that you don't have to do everything all at once. And this is actually a great reminder that the problem isn't usually that you're doing something wrong. You just need a better lens to see your business. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining us and for sharing such great expertise and insights.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
And that was Ben Hussey from Katana, a masterclass in multi-channel inventory, scaling through the ERP gap, and how AI is finally making the sense of supply chain data for SMEs. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit our website, CanadianSME.ca, for more resources. To learn more about how we are supporting the ecosystem, please visit the Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at smefoundation.ca. And a special shout out to our partners, UPS and ADP, for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada.